Hi guys, Kevin Ellis here and welcome to this track guide for Hockenheim in the Porsche 992. So first and foremost, as we head in towards turn 1, you can see on the left hand side here, just as we get to the 100 board, we're just going to start transitioning off the throttle nice and gently onto the brake. And as we come in, it's going to be a downshift into 4th, up against the grass on the left hand side, and as we begin to turn in, trail the brake out of it ever so slightly, and here you can see how early we're going to pick the throttle up as well. Now, in an ideal world, you don't really want to clip this orange anti-cut on the inside, but thankfully with the suspension and the damping in this new car, you can sort of get away with it. You can see here just how close we get to it. That's pretty much as good as you want to hit it right there. Right up against the inside curb, up to 100% throttle, and then on the exit, you can see we're just inside the track limit there, barely. That was about as close as we could have gotten without actually going out of bounds. Down towards turn 2 then. Really difficult corner to get right actually. The inside rear tyre likes to lock up a fair bit down into here, so it's just kind of all about braking as deep as possible, but then as soon as you begin to turn in, you need to drop all the brake out of it as quickly as you can to stop that inside rear from sort of snagging. So we're going to brake just at the 150 as we get past it there, up to threshold by the access road on the left hand side, down into 4th, and you can see we're sort of turning away from the corner here. We're sort of braking in a diagonal route just to open this up, because obviously we've got the long straight up next that heads down into the hairpin. We'll drive it out onto the curb on the outside, and as we begin to turn it in, you see we've managed to avoid any kind of inside rear locking just here. Then as we turn it in, the right front gets to that orange anti-cut just on the inside there, and then at that point we're going to pick the throttle up. You can see just there, we're onto the throttle just before the right front gets to the blue and white. Nice and aggressive on throttle on exit as well, keeping it nice and central. You don't really want to be all out over the left, because then all the way over to the left, because then as you turn through the left you need to scrub quite a bit of speed just trying to get the thing turned through here. See, it keeps things nice and easy. Down the straight, not really a whole lot to say really. Keep it over to the left hand side, not too difficult. And then as we come in towards the hairpin, probably the most difficult corner on the circuit. So we're going to come into the 150 board on the left hand side here. You see we're braking fairways before it. The key thing that I'm doing is trying to get to threshold between this access road and the 100 board. So as I get onto the brakes, see we're at the access road and we're pretty deep into the brakes here, near enough at 100% braking input. Keeping it right up against the curb on the left and down into 2nd gear, down into 1st right at the end as well. So we turn it in, just aiming to get the apex as soon as we can. You don't really want to run it too deep and then try and get the cut back. It generally isn't quicker. It's normally the distance travelled is a bit more important. And right as the right front gets to the middle of the curb here, you can see we're picking the throttle up. So we're basically just splitting the corner at 50-50. First half we're braking right at the middle point of the corner, pick the throttle up with near full lock. Then as you unwind the lock, feel the rear digging into the track, get onto the full throttle, and you can run over this curb on the outside as well if you want, as long as you sort of get up onto the top of it. As it drops off, it doesn't affect the car at all, or any of your drive off. You can still keep the same drive off. Through the little right kink, easy flat, and as you come over to the right hander, you're braking just past the start of this curb on the right hand side, but for me from inside the car, I'm looking to get to threshold by this point just up here. So you see I'm on the brakes, and once we get to this point, you see we're just at the start of the grass, we're at threshold. If you watch the brake input now, see it doesn't get any higher, and then we brush the curb on the outside, down into 2nd gear, and then gradually come off the brakes as we turn it in. Similar to turn 1, you don't really want to hit the orange, you want to get as close to it as you can, and you can see here we're picking the throttle up just before we get to that curb on the inside. Right up against the orange curbing, and gradually onto the power so that you exit nice and central on the track. You don't want to be away over on the right hand side. You want to keep it nice and central or to the left for this next right hander. This is a really tough corner here. So we're up into 3rd gear, out over the curb on the left, and then right as you turn in, flick it up into 4th and then lift out. Now if you carry too much entry speed into here, the rear end will just come around, but if you don't drive it in hard enough and try and get the drive off, it will snap on exit. So you do really need to try and find a bit of a happy medium. In this corner it's really difficult to get the entry speed right. But you can see just as we flick it in up into 4th, down to 25-30% throttle, clip the apex, and then just nice and gradual on the exit. You can see the rear end really kicking out there, but we had a good line. Just kiss the orange curb on the outside, that's absolutely fine. If you go completely, like left side's over it, the car will bottom out and you'll lose time. So you just want to sort of lean on it or get up on the top of it, but as soon as you drop off the left of it, you'll lose a lot of time. So as we approach into the stadium section, then this is a really tough section of track. You can see we're right up against the wall on the left hand side here, just to open the corner up as much as we can. And as we come in, you can see the sort of white line sort of kicks off to the left here ever so slightly. I'm sort of using that as like a threshold marker. So I get on the brakes roughly here. Again, there's no real marker on the track or anything like that. I'm at threshold by that little kink in the track. Down into fourth, and you want to get it right. You want to meet the green curbing right at the start. So you can see here the right front straight onto the curb on the inside. Once you get your right hand side tyres on the inside here, it will encourage the car to turn and it will pull it around the corner. So you really want to make sure that you can get up over that on the inside and also picking up throttle at the same time as well. This car will rotate on throttle if you use the right amount, and the curbing will also rotate the car. It will just allow you to have a higher minimum speed. Once you drop off the curb, up to 100% throttle and then track it right out. You can run straight out onto the gravel out here with no off track. As long as you don't skim the gravel, you obviously lose a little bit of drive off if you do that. But driving it clean out over the curb onto the green and then back across is absolutely fine. Keeping it in fourth, and then I'm going to brake just back here. You can see we're sort of around the 75 board. You can see there goes the 100. Braking it roughly the 75 or the 70 board, and we're at threshold by the time we get to this change in tarmac just before the 50. Once the car gets over the top of that, you watch the brake input, really doesn't change. Down into third, and then going to wait just a little while. There we go, down into second. Meet the curb nice and early and wrap it tight the whole way. Keeping it right up against the curb, keeping the weight over the front tyres as well. Obviously the corner's cambered, so we want to keep the weight in the right front tyre. That will keep the car turning. And then here you can see all these tyre marks that sort of shoot across like that. This is going to be your throttle pickup zone. I'm sort of roughly from here to here is where I'm going to start picking up throttle. See right at the start of it, on power, and then gradually just squeezing the throttle until you can feel the car start to get light like that. Up into second, or from second up into third. Run it out over the curb on the outside. Then cut it back across through here. It was really quite sketchy. It was really on the nose. Cut a lot off the left. And try and ignore this curb on the outside. You want to sort of stay wide. I've kind of changed up my approach to this corner in recent weeks. I've done a couple of races here and other series and seen a lot of people taking this really wide line on the way in. I always like to take the sort of shallower line and wrap it round, but this wider line I've definitely found a little bit of time from doing that. So as we come in, the brake marker's a little bit more awkward now. As we come in, you can sort of see there's a tire mark just here. It's very vague, but once you sort of spot it, you know what you're looking for. You can brake on that mark, down into third, out by the white line, turn it in, keeping the weight over the front tyres with just a little bit of trail braking ever so slightly. Very gentle, and then picking up the throttle back here, again so we can rotate the car through the corner. On the exit, run it out to the red anti-cuts on the outside. Again, you can kiss them, just don't put your left hand side tyres over them because then you're risking an off track. Lift completely out the throttle, the smallest little dab of brake, just to get a little bit of rotation, and pick the throttle straight back up. Cut aggressively over the apex curb. This car is well damped enough to take those curbs and be absolutely fine. And then on the exit, run it right out to the gravel. And then with that, you have a run to the line. So hopefully this is useful to you guys. As always, any kind of questions, feel free to fire them in the Apex Racing Academy Discord. But with that, guys, best luck on your races this week, and we'll see you next week.